The other thing I want to talk about, and Patrick, you might enjoy this in particular, is I have another spreadsheet. So as you can see, I have three big spreadsheets that I just keep track of. Yeah. Yeah, Killian, if you want to hit me up on Discord, just let me know. I am pretty easy to find, and if you want to like talk about different lists, however, this next segment might actually be fairly useful for that because I keep track of all the lists in GTs that go X and 1 or better. So the actual thing that I have here is my rule is you need to have a 75% win rate or better over at least 5 rounds at a 2,000 point singles event. So no teams, and it needs to be at least 5 rounds. I don't care how many players were there. And 75% win rate does mean that you get a couple people like Adam Green and oh, it's Patrick again. This was at Edmonton where you need at least a 75% win rate, right? So if you can go 6-2 at an event, it'll count. But 3-1-1 will not get onto this list because that's a 70% win rate. I cut it off at 75% win rate, partly because I'm lazy and partly because it's my spreadsheet. If you want to use my spreadsheet, you're gonna have to follow my rules. That's how it works. Anyway, so this week, what we've kind of been seeing in terms of like guard competitive, whatchamacallit, guard competitive lists, we've kind of been seeing a condensation of lists recently where there's kind of four major lists that you actually like see all the time. And the first one is combined arms, tanks and midboard, or midboard and tanks, right? It's basically just you take a bunch of the good units, right? You just take Rogaldorn commanders, you take some Lemur's battle tanks, maybe some exterminators, maybe some hellhounds, maybe some 20-man Kriegs, maybe some Kazarkin, maybe some transports, and you just like take all of that in some number of things, and you just put it all in one list. And you just like you just take guard good stuff. Maybe you have a couple of extra tanks. Maybe you have a couple of extra transports. Whatever. They're basically the same kind of like style of list. That's probably the most common thing that we're seeing. The second one that we're seeing a lot of is Hammer the Emperor. I just call it Dorns and Vanquishers. And this is something that I first started seeing when Nick Gigello, one of the top Toronto guard players, started just playing what he just called his pile of tanks. And it was, I think it's the most common variant is you have 2 Rogaldorn commanders and 3 Lemur's Vanquishers, and then like maybe some exterminators, maybe some hellhounds, and then some like midboard nonsense. Like, it could be Rough Riders, it could be Death Riders, it could be Kazarkin, it could be Ratlings, it could be Engineers, it could be Catachan. It doesn't really matter. Something is going to stand in front of your tanks and is going to keep things back away from your army, away from all of your damage. We've been seeing this one pop up a fair amount. So let's see. Over this data slate, Patrick did it. We have Philip Koenig over out in Germany. Joel Rayner did a very similar thing. Patrick Greatbatch did it again. I know Nick Gigello, I don't think he's made it. Oh, he is on this sheet. What did he play? This might actually be another variant of the same thing. 2 Dorns, and then 3 Vanquishers. Yeah, there's a lot of people playing. 2 Dorns, 3 Vanks, Hammer the Emperor. It works. It's a very common archetype that we're starting to see. Those are probably by far the 2 most popular archetypes that you tend to see. But the third one that we're starting to see a little bit more is this one that Nassim just started playing. We're starting to see this a lot more in teams in particular. And this is what Nassim took to Glasshammer. He went 4-1, losing to, I think it was Nathan Roberts. I think Nathan ended up winning the event because he was like the only person who didn't get a draw and just like won all 5 games. But the big thing about this, the core to this one is still 2 Rogaldorn commanders, which are still like a little bit too cheap, and then Bulgrin, and then you just take some other like midboard skirmishing stuff. And one of the big things about this right now is it's a lot better on WTC maps than it is on Games Workshop maps, but it still works on, from what I understand, it's still pretty good on UKTC. I don't know that. That's just what I've heard from people who play it. And then the other thing that we've seen that is pretty good is also good on WTC, and both Nassim and Gustavo, who's another top British player, have been pushing to take 18 Bulgrin, and Nassim says that he has locked in his list for WTC, but is not going to share it. But based on how both he and Gustavo are like talking up all of the Bulgarian right now, I would not be surprised if it included 18 of them. So one of the most interesting things about this time of year that always happens in like late June and into July is trying to understand what is and is not a psyop, because you have all of like all the top players, anybody who's playing for like a national team or anybody who's like loosely affiliated with a national team. This is the time of year where they just start playing weird stuff at events, right? Because they're trying to do two things. One, it's testing, right? If you want to test out units that might be good, but you don't know if they're good, you can do it at GTs, you can do it at RTTs, you can just do it at events in order to try and keep track and just get like real experience with these units at an event. And also play them over the board instead of on TTS, because I don't know about you guys, but whenever I play something, I play it on the board for the first time, it feels different. But the other thing is they will play units that they know are kind of bad just to try and get other people to play them, to see if they can convince other people to play armies and variants of lists that are not as good. And so this time of year is always very fun because you're trying to figure out, like, are they making stuff up? Is it actually good? Are they trying to make things work that don't actually work and they're just working because they're super, super powerful? I don't know. That's always the really interesting thing. So this is, like I said, a list that we're starting to see a little bit more of. 18 Bulgrin, double Doran Commander, and then other just like skirmishing stuff will just be a lot of melee lists. World Eaters have like Spawn are like point efficient at killing Bulgrin. Khorne Berserkers with Karn are fairly point efficient killing Bulgrin, but still not that point efficient at killing these 6-man bricks. And also, if you just roll low on the attacks and Bulgrin just live, then you're gonna lose like three of them just like out of nowhere. So it really shuts down a lot of melee that is really popular on WTC, and from what I understand, UKTC melee, where Blood Angels are really starting to surge back. So this is something that we are starting to see as well. So that's the third archetype that we're really starting to see. The fourth one that we're really starting to see even more is, if you haven't already heard about it, it's Wesley St. Hines' Recon body, Recon Horde. And I just call this one Wesley's Horde. There's another person who played something similar. Ed Watts played a very similar list at Glasshammer as well. But anyway, this is I'm gonna show you guys Ed's because it is easier to read than Wesley's. Because Wesley, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna show you guys. So Wesley does this thing where he brands it the UNSC 42nd Infantry Regiment, and we can go in and take a look at this one. And this is, I don't know what this is. However, every single one of the Tanith Ghosts has been given a new name. You have Alpha 9, which I'm sure is something from the expanded universe. Captain Veronica Dare. I don't know who this is, but this is, again, stuff from the Halo lore. Spartan Taylor Dutch Miles, who is Korbeck. Spartan Michael Mickey Crespo, who is Larkin. Spartan Kojo Romeo Agu, who is M. Cole. Lance Corporal Jonathan Rookie Doherty, who is Ron. And then Spartan Edward Buck, who is, maybe I did him backwards. Veronica, wait, one. Oh, Dutch is Bragg. I don't know. Anyway, so this is really hard for me to read because it just takes like a little bit extra. So let's go ahead and take a look at Ed Watts' equivalent of it. So the basic theory of this, and we'll talk about this a little bit, Ivan, is the main way that you're trying to play with this style of list is you are trying to just remove your opponent's ability to score primary. And you're going to score all of your primary, and you're not going to let your opponent score any. And a major part of this comes down to the fact that you just have a crap ton of OC. You have 20, 40, 60. Oh, there's even more. 100 Cadian shock troops just by themselves, and then you have 1, 2, 3. So it's 130, 150, 160, 170, 180, 190, 200, 200 like normal battle line infantry, and then it's 10, 20. So 200 battle line infantry, 20 horses, 1, 2, 3, 8, 13, 18, 19, 20, 26. So you have 220 plus 26. This is 246 bodies of nonsense. And the whole reason why this works is because voice of command is like one of the best army rules in the entire game. But and Ursa, so 247. I think it's 247 bodies, and the whole thing that this does is it actually does very little damage. If you watch the interview that I did with Wesley, this list does just enough damage to kill the things that are good at killing guardsmen. And it doesn't matter if they can kill like a couple of guardsmen. They need to kill an entire unit of guardsmen, because this unit is just so good at creating problems for your opponent. And as to why you're not taking Khazarkin in this is because they don't do enough more, and you have to ask yourself the question, I could take a unit of Khazarkin, or for 10 more points, I could get 10 more bodies that have a 3-up save. This unit of Cadian shock troops at 120 points has 2 melta-guns, 2 plasma guns, which is the same as a unit of Khazarkin. You lose the sniper, you lose the melta-mine, you lose the power sword and the plasma pistol, but in exchange, you're getting so many bodies. And that's one of the main reasons why you don't take Khazarkin in Recon, is because this unit, if you are good with your positioning, does more than the Khazarkin for only 10 more points. If you're in a spot where like you only have 110 points available, and you can't scramble like 10 more points, you can consider at that point going for the Khazarkin. But these are just so efficient, because you give everyone that your opponent is likely to shoot at take aim, and then because you have the Cadian command squads here, and they are touching an objective, which is very easy for them to do, all of them have benefit of cover. And so what you effectively end up having is you have a unit that has +2 to save, so your basic save goes from a 5-up to a 3-up, and then you have the benefit of cover, just in the open. So unless your opponent has ignore cover or is hitting you in melee, they are not killing that many attacks. The other big thing that I kind of want to go through and why this is so useful is, let's go over to Unit Crunch, which is another one of my favorite websites. And we're going to look at an ad hoc unit that has 20 models, toughness 3, 1 wound, and a 4-up save. And this is going to be in melee. So this is going to be looking at like how many power sword attacks it actually takes to kill this unit. Let's remove that. We'll go over to an ad hoc. And I'm just going to make a guess. It's going to take 50 attacks on 3s at strength. I think power swords are mostly like 411, something like that. But, you know, we'll start there, right? 50 attacks on 3s at 411 at AP1. And we'll see how many of these it actually takes. This unit with 50 attacks, this is a unit of like 10 Marines, is still only 7.5% likely to kill. Now let's go ahead and bump it up to strength 6. Maybe this is 50 JPI attacks. So it's like 10 Blood Angels, Jump Pack Intercessors. That unit, not including the mortals, still doesn't kill a unit of 20 Cadians more than half the time. Now, what if we give it full reroll hits? Because for some reason we are oathing a unit of Cadians. We are finally at a position now where we are likely to kill this unit. But we're already looking at like units, nobody is playing 10 jump pack intercessors, right? The only thing that this does is this is like Karn and Berserkers, right? This is just not a very common unit that you see. You might see one of these in a what do you call it? Yeah, you might see like one of these over the course of a tournament. And the other thing is this unit is very susceptible to the damage that we can actually put out in Recon, right? This unit is very susceptible to a lot of plasma, and this army does have enough plasma guns that they are going to be doing damage, and melta guns, because they're all going to be, like every melta fail basically just kills a guy. Every successful melta wound is just going to kill a guy. And so once you do this a couple of times, you very quickly realize most armies don't kill a unit of 20 guardsmen, just in general. I'm going to go ahead and pull up, oh, Gladiator Reaper. Is that the one I'm thinking of? I know they both just have a gazillion guns. Gladiator Reaper. Okay. War gear options. So you get an Iron Hail and the Rocket Pod. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look at Gladiator Reaper and just assume everything gets to shoot. So this one, 12 attacks on 3s at 6, 0, 1. It's dev wounds, but it's not going to add that much of a difference, to be honest. And then Tempest Bolter has 8 attacks on 3s at 4, 1, 1. Iron Hail Heavy Stubber is going to have 6 attacks on 3s at 4, 0, 1. God, this thing has so many attacks. And then the Rocket Pod is D3 attacks on 3s at 8, 1, 2. And let's go back to our 20 guys who now have a 3-up as long as they are in cover. And let's just kind of figure out how many of them are going to die. 5. Right? Oh, we didn't even give ourselves cover. Let's give ourselves cover. This model's Twin Heavy Onslaught Gatling Cannon, which is that one. Okay, so Sustain 2 is basically equivalent to hitting on... Alright, we're going to fudge this a little bit. This is going to give us a number that is similar, but you are correct. The Twin Heavy Onslaught Gatling Cannon has Sustain 2. So we're going to fudge it. We're going to give it a couple of extra attacks and make it hit on 2s. Right? We are still, let's give this a lot more attacks than it actually has. We are still in the neighborhood of this unit kills like 8, right? We are underestimating a little bit. Actually, with this, we are probably overestimating a little bit. We are rapidly approaching the point of like this unit that is supposed to be one of the premier anti-infantry is killing less than half of a squad. Let's give it the full rerolls, and I don't want to go into all the super details. But even then, let's assume that we are underestimating, and this unit actually kills 10 on average. That means that it's not killing 20. And if we can tag this in melee, now it's killing even less. If we give it like -1 to hit and still oathing the thing, we are still at the point where it's killing like 8 or 9. There's just so much. This is one of the best anti-infantry platforms in the game, and it still doesn't kill a unit of 20 guardsmen that are in cover with take aim. That is why you don't take Kazarkin in this general like style of list, is because you just don't have the number of bodies, right? The 10 Kazarkin you can kill because it's half the number of bodies, and they're not more durable than the Cadians at the same time. Random count, Ultramarines do get a strat to strip cover and add AP. Does that -3 to save do much? Yeah, the Gladius strat would actually just like full kill a unit. However, you can only do that once per turn. So if we take a look at like Ed Watts' list, if you're just gonna kill like one of these for like per turn, he's got 5, right? And you don't have to. And that's the other big thing, is they are going to slowly be rezzing guys. As soon as like one unit is no longer combat effective, you rotate that one into being behind cover, and then you present your opponent with another one. And you just have way too many bodies. You still have to keep them in cover. You still have to play smart with your positioning. But that's why this comes through. And one of the big things about this, I'm going to be playing a game with this style of list on Wednesday. Yeah, I'm playing Wesley's list up against my friend Victor. He's going to be reprising Blood Angels, which is an army he has not played in a while. If you're smart with your positioning, you just have more stuff than your opponents do, and even though you don't do a lot of damage, you are still going to have the ability to consistently deny your opponent all their primary while scoring all of our primary. And also, the other big thing that you can do is because you are everywhere on the board basically all the time, you should have enough bodies to just do any objectives that you need to. So it's very easy for this list to score maximum points or close to maximum every single time. And I kind of want to go through here. So, like, Wesley, who, again, is one of the best players in the entire world, easily a top 20, for sure. The only reason why he didn't get hundreds here is because he didn't have his paint points. Let's take a look at Ed Watts, who's way less practiced with the same kind of list. So he scored 86, 100, another 100, 99. You know, sometimes secondaries don't line up perfectly. And this one scored an 82. So Ed Watts, who's a fantastic player, but who has definitely played fewer games of this than Wesley has, is still getting, like, his low scores are still in the 80s, which is very impressive. And I kind of want to go back. Let's see. March. Do we have any Wesley here? So this is in Bridgehead. And you can see here, so this was Bridgehead, so it's not quite as good as scoring, but, like, in the upper 80s all the time. And then just there. We can go back even further. Wow, look. Wesley's Horde. They still pop up all the time. Here, this was Bridgehead. He had a one game that was in the 80s, but, like, you can consistently score it very highly. If I had the models for this list, I'd play it, but you can't convince me to buy 8 more boxes of Cadians right now. Based. Look, every single time, like, I talk to Nemo fairly often, I'll ask him, like, hey, what should I play? And the first thing he'll always say is Recon. My response, you can use this one too. Nemo, I am glad that you are having fun with this archetype of list. Which is very true for me. I am happy that this list exists. I am happy that someone has fun playing this. I'm not one of them. I'm not going to play this in anything. And one of the big things for me, as I'm looking at it, is with Challengers Cup coming up in a couple of months. I think it's end of September, so we have like 2 months until Challengers Cup, which is, for anybody who is not in the Western United States, it's one of the it's a really big teams event being put on my green banner, and it's 8-man teams. And I think the last time this was put on, it was like Stat Check, like the super team of Stat Check. So like Brian Sipe, Anthony Vanilla, Ennis Wilson, and whoever else they had come out, just came out and actually played all together. It's that event, but it's 8-man teams. And I'm going to have a bit of a tough time convincing my team that I shouldn't be playing Recon for that. I've got the models, but can't emotionally do it. Exactly. I am not playing this one at any kind of, like, real tournament, because Wesley, who has a lot of practice with this, has said it is one of the most exhausting ways to play 40k if you are down to do it. Yes, I'll see you at Challengers Cup, Killian. It'll be a good time. Random count. Been trying to get this army on the table. I own enough infantry through poor decisions and War Games Atlantic models. Generally too worried about time to take to the LGS for practice, though. So I got a feeling there. So one of the big things about playing this to keep track of is, one, if you want to play it, you should. I'm not going to recommend that if this style of gameplay doesn't sound very fun for you, I cannot in good faith recommend that anyone play it. However, if it does sound like fun for you, then you should do it. Use movement trays. Practice playing on a clock. So the biggest thing here, one of the big things that I'll do when I've tried to introduce people to playing tournaments, is I will set up a timer for people, right? I'll be like, okay, we've started deployment, we started the timer, and this timer will go for 3 hours. And sometimes I'll set it a little bit longer, especially if I know they're newer. 3.5 hours. At the end of 3.5 hours, I want you to understand that that would be like hard cutoff. The game needs to be done at this time. And as soon as people like start doing that, they understand what a, a lot of decisions you can shortcut. So one of the examples of this, and one of the biggest things that I recommend people do if they're trying to like go from being like a 2 and 3 player to a 3 and 2 player or a 4 and 1 player is prep and doing a lot of prep. One of the big things that I will oftentimes do. There we go. Okay, so one of the things that I'll oftentimes do is this is the kind of thing that I will just go into Tabletop Simulator. So one of the biggest things that I'll do is this unit here, right here, this big old unit of Krieg. I know this unit's job is to go sit on my expansion the entire game. And then maybe, if I'm already winning, then I can start, like, pulling guys off the objective. But this unit, their job is to just go set on my natural. And so what I'll do when I deploy is I need to see 9 inches. This unit needs to be able to get to my natural with a 9-inch move. And that number is really important because that is 6 plus 3 from move is 9. So I know every single time, regardless of my advance roll, if I were to roll one, that this unit is going to safely make it onto my objective. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Okay, so that's like something that you can already do. This unit has a known job. Okay. The next thing that you'll oftentimes do is you have a unit that's kind of like this one. So this is a unit of Catachan. And this Catachan's job is it is going to go towards my opponent's natural, and it's going to stage, like, here. There's, like, this ruin is, like, something like this, I think. So the unit of Catachan that is here is just going to go hide here and be ready to jump onto my opponent's natural the turn after. So this unit, I already know what it's doing, and I kind of don't care what my opponent's army is. That's going to be its basic job. I have some unit, right? This one, I think there's like this weird like Krieg thing like interspersed with like Catachan. This unit, their job is to be annoying in the middle. To make sure that my opponent cannot hold this one, and to hold it if I've killed off my opponent's ability to kill off my infantry. The other thing is I need something to go stand on this in case I draw air denial. So that's what this unit is doing, right? This unit Catachan, that's like here. And I have all of these things. It's just like memorized, right? It's the kind of thing where I do it. I've done it so many times in so many different games that I know what my first turn looks like going first or going second pretty much every single time. This unit, if I go first, it's going to scout 6 inches this way, and then I'm going to figure out what to do with it when I see my secondaries. If I go second, it's scouting here, and then depending on if we're playing WTC charge rules or not, it's standing here like an inch back from the wall, or it's standing far enough back such that if my opponent charges me, they're going to end up with the guys on my side of the wall. Right? These are things that are just so ingrained in the way that I play, in the way that I am trying to build my army, that I don't think about them. And one of the biggest things that I will see a lot of newer, like, middle and lower players do is they'll spend a lot of time in the tank. And in the tank, I mean, I spend a lot of time thinking on turn one. When realistically, there's a couple of things that you should be doing on turn one, and you should assume that in most games, your opponent is good enough that they're not going to let you kill anything. Because if you're losing things on turn one, it better either be bait or better have been like blocking scout moves or something. So don't give your opponent pieces on turn one if you can help it. So don't think on turn one. Just do the thing. Know where everything is going. And the most important thing that I would say that you want to be able to do is know what you want the game to look like halfway through turn two. So when you're going from the top of turn 2 into the bottom of turn 2. Know what you want the game to look like if you're going first. Know what you want the game to look like if you're going second. And then deploy in order to make that happen. That's the biggest thing. Ivan, is this the only tankless guard option? I think the answer to that question depends mostly on like how competitive you are, and what your goals are. I think the two detachments that you can viably play guard with 0 vehicles are Recon, which is like the Wesley's Horde that we've been talking about, right? Let's go back. Right, so stuff like this, where you just spam dudes and horses. You include maximum Cadian command squads, you include maximum Cadian castellans, and then you just spam guys, right? That's probably the best way to do it. The other way that you can do it is probably actually the last time that Wesley played Bridgehead. So this was Bridgehead, and this was like right after the Codex nerfs. Yeah, right after the Codex came out. So it's pretty similar. You've got the Militarum Tempestus command squads, Ogrim bodyguards, and then it's just dudes. And the big difference between he's got an armored sentinel for some reason, but 65 points could just be guys. This one is, if Recon is, I don't care how much damage you're going to do to me, this one is, I'm going to kill all of your ability to kill my stuff. So this is another fairly, like, this is reasonably competitive, but you're doing it with the I'm going to kill you first style instead of the other way around. Rip Bridgehead, I miss Bridgehead. I do too. So one of my big things about Bridgehead, it's worth noting that this Old Guard games, this was played when it was the +1 to hit. So, if you are Wesley St. Hines, you can still play Bridgehead. I think Bridgehead is still playable. Again, not likely to win a GT anytime soon, but like if you want to go 3-2, Bridgehead is good enough to do that. The thing about Bridgehead that I'm most sad about is it is an incredibly technical army. And one of the things is I played probably like 40 games of Bridgehead, and I was still learning things towards the end. So we were talking about archetypes that we're seeing a lot. So we already talked about the main ones. So that is combined like tanks and dudes. Then there was the newfangled combined, which is Bulgrin and Dorns, that we've been seeing Nassim and Gustavo play. It's mostly playable on UKTC and WTC. We have Dorns and Vanks, which is very common in Hammer. And then we have Wesley's Horde. And most armies that you look at fall into one of those categories of armies, right? You got this one, you got this one. How solved are the guard meta lists right now? If someone wanted to make one, how much of the list is auto take versus pilot's choice? So I've had this joke for a long time with David Purcell, Dingbat, if you are a part of the thing. There's two answers to this. I'll start with you can randomly generate a guard list and it's going to be fine. Okay? If you go to this spreadsheet and you go over here and you just randomly select units from here. Okay? So like, yeah, if you just randomly selected something, like I'm going to blindly click. Okay? All right, what do we got? We got Gaunt's Ghost. Okay, we're going to put that in a notepad. Gaunt's Ghost. And then so there's that. And then I'm going to let's go to 50%, and then we're going to randomly click. Okay, we got a Cadian command squad, and we did this until we had 2,000 points, and you just put it in combined arms. It's not going to be a GT winning list, but it's going to be fine, right? Like you're going to be able to take this to a list, and you're not going to be losing too many games because your list is bad. Okay. Yeah, as long as you end up with like non-zero number of tanks and non-zero number of like infantry stuff, you're gonna be fine, right? Just like fudge it a little bit to make sure that it's a legal list and you don't have anything that's just dying at the start of the game, right? Because it's not in a or like the transport doesn't have anything inside it, or the Ogre Bodyguard doesn't have a guy, right? Just go ahead and do that. But if you do that, you're gonna have a fine list. However, the follow up to that is, I would say, easily 90% of the player base, if you are trying to play a competitive list, just steal one. Just go net list. It is okay. That's part of why. So part of why I have this spreadsheet in general is, one, I think it's interesting. I like knowing what other guard players are playing because sometimes it's different. Like it's interesting. You get to learn different things. And so there's this one. Where's Lucas? Was that on the last patch? Yeah. So we had like Lucas Stern somewhere in here. Lucas Stern. This was at Here's the Mid Table, which was like a medium-sized GT. Yeah, 35 players in British Columbia, Canada. And I took a look at this, and I'm like, okay, Gons goes, King Command Squad, Lord Solar. I don't know how I feel about Lord Solar. But then we got down here, and it's like, oh, triple Hydra. I didn't think Hydras were very good. So I played like 5 games with them. And I think they're okay, right? Like, my opinion of Hydras is higher now than before. And in fact, because I won a tournament a while back, I got 3 of them. And they're sponge painted mostly. You can kind of see there's like a gradient of color to them, right? Even if I turn it upside down, you got the color gradient because sponges. Anyway, so I have 3 of these. I spent some tournament winnings on them, and I have them. I played all the games on TTS, and I did not push them. I have not played those Hydras on an actual board at all yet, but I think they're better now than I did before. Also, you can just play this list. Like, this list won a GT. It is fine. Okay. However, there are lists. So let's easy example. If Wesley's list, if this does not look fun to you, don't play it. You guys just look at my list. I don't think this was the best list written of all time, but Cadian Command Squad, Ogre Bodyguard, Rogel Doran, Ursula Creed, 10 Cadians, 20 Krieg, 1 Chimera, 1 Taurox, 5 Death Riders, 1 Hellhound, Kazarkin, Battle Tank, Exterminator, Aquilons. This is not the best list that you could write of all time. But I went 4-1. It's good enough. It's going to let you do a lot of cool things. Let's find one that actually won. Not mine. Let's go ahead and take a look at Nick Jagela's. This is Dorns and Vanks, right? 2 Dorns, Cadians, Rough Riders, Hellhound, Exterminator, Vanquisher, Ratling, Scout Sentinel, right? Like, this is, if you just copied this list, you're not going to lose because your list is worse, right? Maybe your list was like tailored for, and your opponent like is skewing into killing tanks a little bit better, but like, this list is good. There's a reason why it's doing well. Just want to do as well as you can, and you're not already in a spot where you think you can win a GT. The best thing you can do is steal a list. Play it like 5 times before you go to the GT, so you understand some of the idiosyncrasies of the list. If you have access to the person, so if anybody is in here and is not already part of the Discord, but if you have access to the person who like wrote the list, send them a message, right? If somebody wants to steal my list and they want to know how I play it, well, firstly, I'm a bit unique because you can just go watch my videos on the GTs. But if you want to know how to play this list, just send a DM to him and ask like, hey, how did this list work? Why do you have this piece and not this other piece? And they'll give you an answer. Majority of people in the 40k community are very happy to help in general. So I think stealing lists is probably the best way to remove the handicap of potentially bringing a bad list. If you don't know how to build good lists,